Hey guys, back with another Echoing Thoughts podcast here, episode number 47. And in this podcast, we're going to talk about holiday season, also known as quitting season. And this is the time of year where a lot of people end up quitting, whether or retiring or just leaving the game, downgrading. It just feels like this is the time of the year where that big wave of people coming back during the summer, whether it's students or people coming back for anniversary and whatever it is, V1, V2, V3, and now they burn out. Now maybe they're back in school, maybe priorities change, maybe they're trying to start a New Year's resolution, starting the new year right by cutting out Maple Mobile. And whatever the reason is, it just feels like there's always a wave of people that end up leaving the game. And so in this podcast, I wanted to talk about why I think people end up quitting and what I think Nexon has tried to do this past year and what I think that they can do moving forward in 2024. Because I think that this year, to be honest, they've done a lot of great things to sort of retain players. People are going to quit. It's kind of natural, just the nature of the player base and the way the game is designed. But also, I feel like there's still things that Nexon can do to build off of this year and the things that they've done to make 2024 retainable for players to have people continue to play and not burn out, not leave, and just ways for them to enjoy the game. So first things first, we're going to talk about why I think players quit. And for someone that's quit 2 times now, I'm in the, I can say that I've understand where they're coming from, right? The game is, let's be honest, it's taxing. If you're a mega whale, a whale financially, it's taxing. Whether you're free to play, whether you're anywhere in between, the game requires consistency. It requires dailies. It requires funding of whatever level you are. And I think starting from that free-to-play level, I think the most challenging part is overcoming, progressing, and pretty much doing content, right? I think a lot of the times free-to-play players, they are the ones that love the game. They truly love the game and enjoy it. And I find rarely, majority of the people, free-to-play players continue because they've had some sort of nostalgia to the game, the PC version. They just like it. They, enjoy logging on. But I think what prevents free-to-play players from, continuing is just they're not able to do content. That's just what it comes down to, right? For free-to-play players and, lower funded financially players, right? They can't do content on their own. They are, they can't solo stuff because they don't have enough gear. They can't progress fast enough because everything is, is either time gated or has a paywall, right? And I think that is what makes retaining players so challenging for Nexon, because there's such a wide range of players that play the game on a daily basis. But I think free-to-play players, if there's one thing that I've noticed for them leaving, is just they hit a wall of content. Not that they don't enjoy the game, it's just they can't do anything without taking exponentially longer than other people and relying heavily on RNG too, right? The game is still, as much as you spend, as much as you play, it's still, there's a good amount of luck involved, and I think that's very frustrating. As that one thing that Nexon has not sort of improved over the years. They've tried to, but I think that they could do a better job of increasing rates for certain things, especially for the free to play lower tier player pool, right? Things like, for example, are from events. Why are armor emblem scrolls 8%? Why is it not increasing from events? Um, that's just one. Unique scrolls, why are they only 30%? Why isn't it higher? Why, a lot of things, right? And we'll talk about that later on, but I just feel like free to play players and lower funded players, just the content wall is tough, especially if you're a solo player and you don't have people that literally carry you through content just to progress. And if you can't find a good guild, um, then it's very, very challenging. Um, I think that needs to change, right? Now I think the next tier of players is sort of that middle ground. Those whales that may have a necro weapon, that may have are lacking emblems, or kind of in between having say 13, 14, 15 mil cap all the way up to, let's say, 20 mil cap, right? That's sort of people that are possibly full necro at the peak, but are also have a few necro pieces, maybe mythics, with a necro weapon. And it just feels like for those players, it's they fall into the same category of free to play players. But I think why a lot of them quit is just the paywall, right? The fact that you have to spend X amount of money just for a chance at hitting a necro, to buy more Chaos Daily dungeon tickets, for an emblem, for um, I don't know, finished gear, for hitting radiant exalting necros, whatever it is. It feels like they've hit that. Like, that is the biggest obstacle that the middle tier players face, and that is what everyone faces. But I think more so for them because they're geared enough, but to hit that next stage again of content, where maybe they're struggling to get into a Lotus team, or maybe they're struggling. They're obviously not going to be geared enough for Damien. Um, it just feels like they've hit a wall of where they have to spend more money, and that's not something that they want to do, and they decide um, it's better off to quit. And I think another factor that really handicaps these players is that they don't want to quit. I think a lot of people don't want to quit, but the difficulty of re-rolling, finding a new class, leveling it, gearing it, building it back up is just not worth the investment for this class of players, right? Mega whales at the top, if they want to re-roll, they're just gonna do it, right? They'll sell their gear and buy new ones and get to speed level as fast as possible, and they'll do it. But this tier of players, kind of that middle, those whales, but that whale tier of players are slightly below. It's re-rolling is just too sticking to a main. You know, re-rolling mains is just too much of an obstacle to overcome. And I think that's one thing that Nexon should definitely look at in 2024. I'll talk about some ideas, but I think that being able to play multiple classes and do it in a certain amount of time with as little investment is kind of one of the best parts about Maple. So many classes, and yet it's so hard to play all of them, right? And to get to the end game, fifth job of these classes, right? Without obviously spending and grinding and things like that. So paywall and the inability, the difficulty of re-rolling, the financial, burden that it takes to re-gear and re-level is very challenging for this tier of players. And I think that hopefully that becomes something that they look into, right? And the last tier obviously is the mega whales. A lot of them consistently just burn out from spending too much too quickly, kind of hitting that peak, and then just getting bored of the game, right? We see it all the time. It's just they just enjoy the high of gambling basically, of hitting the peaks, of competing, doing more DPS, and then it comes crashing down, and they just lose that interest in the game. They don't um, enjoy the grind anymore. They don't enjoy doing dailies. They just don't enjoy playing the game, and they want to cut their losses financially or just time wise. Um, so I think that for them, um, it just comes down to going too hard too quickly, and those players kind of tend to come and go, come in, leave, come back, and so there's always going to be those people, the cycle of players, and so I don't think that. Yes, they may be the ones that fund Nexon, but I don't think that's the player base necessarily that um, Nexon should be trying to retain necessarily, because those people um, aren't the, let's just say they aren't, um, it's not sustainable, I guess, for them to continue to mega whale out for long periods of time, right? So the player base that I think that Nexon should really focus on is sort of that middle tier whale to the free to play players, kind of everything from you know from the whale level below, just because those people um, feels like they're sustainable and that they want to play the game for a long time if there's a few things that are changed. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts though about what you see is the main reason for why people quit, why people leave, why I've talked to people that have quit recently. Like people are selling their guild left and right. Good friends of mine that I've played with that have been playing for a long time, and it was their time, right? And sometimes that's just what it is. Sometimes life just takes over, where you can't, the time commitment, the financial commitment, whatever it is, everyone has their own reasons. But I truly believe that it all kind of comes back down to the content, the game, the state of the game, the nature of the game. Is it enjoyable? And I think if I could narrow it down, that's the one thing that if Nexon wants to retain players and prevent people from quitting or prevent people from leaving, or just if for what people want, from prevent people from talking bad about the game, um, wanting to get their friends to play with them. I think they really have to focus on the content, and I think that they've done a good job this year, really, of putting out content, especially at the beginning of the year. Every month was a banger. Obviously falling off at the end of the year, but I still think that they have to continue to produce content, or else it's gonna just, like they say, the game's gonna die. It's just going to be this endless cycle of not improving, retaining players, and so I do think that no matter what the player base is or how much what their tier is at, what their funding level is at, I think that focusing on the content for all levels is extremely, extremely important, and the number one focus that I think will help make the game better and help retain players and bring in new players overall. So after this, I'm going to talk about some things that I've thought of. I've, obviously not the only one that's thought of it, but some ideas that I think would really help progress the game, grow the game, and bring in new players and retain new players moving forward in 2024. All right, so some of the things that I thought of, and it's not really new, but I think it should be brought up, I think are great ways to, I guess, please all player bases and just sort of update certain parts of the game. Like a few of the things that I liked this year was, let's say, this current event, Boss Bounty event, where you clear dailies of Commander and Chaos, and you can choose, there's a store for items that you can choose, right? If you're missing a Magnus pendant, a Magnus badge, you're missing a Von Leon piece, whatever it is, you do your dailies, you do your content, and you will get rewarded. And this is long overdue, right? They also tried to do it where after so many clears, you get a box for hard chaos clears, for chaos clears. Some are choice boxes, some are random. They have it for HRA and normal RA as well. Those are great, but I really think that they need to put an emphasis on choice boxes, options, um, just because of how RNG based a lot of this accessory drops are, right? And I think that feels very, those drop rates are very outdated for content that is outdated. Just simple as that. So I think that finding ways to, I guess, minimize RNG by rewarding consistency, right? By playing the game, people should get rewarded and should also get rewarded by eliminating the RNG aspect, by giving them options, a choice. Right? I think that's just something. It's not for, you know, it's not going to take away everything, the RNG side of the game, a big part of the game, but it's just going to help progress that lower content, that content that's been out for years and years and years, that still is around and has benefits, and it's just adding another layer and just, you know, making it available. Um, I think that's an easy thing for them to fix, and they've been doing it. I think they just gotta, keep it a next step. Maybe if this boss bounty thing is incorporated into Commander, where after so many clears you get a choice box. That'd be awesome. And versus being event, it's just something that's always there. And after 3 months, 90 days, whatever it is, 90 clears, you can get your Hard Magnus pendant. You can get your Von Leon piece, whatever it is. That's nice, right? 1 out of 90 is still a low percent. Like, getting a drop every 90 days is still a low percent, right? It's not going to be, it's still going to be tough. It's still going to be a grind. But I think at least people seeing the end of the tunnel and getting their dailies rewarded for playing the game, that's an easy way to retain players, right? Keep players happy. And the next thing I think they have to focus on, and this just starts from the bottom, and it's events. Like I mentioned, why are there's still 8% armor emblem scrolls, weapon scrolls as choices in the event? Why is it not 20%? Why is it not 25%? It's sad to see in 2023, coming on to 2024, people, mains, not having emblems. For, like, maybe that's just me being in a different class, like not a free to play, but it just feels like emblems are such a outdated part of the game that just because you have an emblem, it doesn't mean it's, even if you pass that emblem scroll, it doesn't even mean it's going to be a good emblem, right? The double layers of RNG just for an emblem is ridiculous, and I think that rate should go up. Just simple as that. Why, like, 20%? Even if you only get one per month, maybe if you want to increase the available buys, maybe that's nice too. But I just feel like that is something. It shouldn't be the case where newer players are having such a hard time to get emblems, or lower player tiers, free to play players are having such a hard time getting emblems, let alone the right emblem. I just don't think that's makes sense. And then things like, I don't know, maybe the shop can be better, but I think that is just something that I feel like is very outdated. It just is. I mean, they've incorporated exalt reduction scores consistently, 30%. Why aren't, there's a whole player base that's not even at that stage yet because they don't even have emblems. So that's just my thought. I think that's an easy fix. Just, again, reward playing the game, reward consistency, doing events with a little bit more RNG, a little bit more, success. Goes a long way. I feel like it's not going to kill them if they make it 20%, whatever it is. And that goes along the lines of also adding in increased success chances with every fail. They do it for exalts, rating exalts. Why is that the only thing? Is it because that there's a five tier count? I mean, only 5 exalt failures at a time. Necros, ancient inherent attempts are so still very challenging for players to accumulate these coins, these attempts, if the item isn't tradable. So basically, they're getting punished. Players are getting punished for equipping their best gear and not holding it in their bag and making it tradable, which is a tradable item is very hard to find at the mythic level because it's just such an outdated part of the game, right? I just think that it doesn't make sense for people to be struggling like to gather attempts for necro and inherent attempts, not get rewarded, and being punished for equipping their best gear, and not having it a tradable project. I just think that that's doesn't make sense to me, especially now, especially nowadays. And then increase success rates. Necros, like every fail should be 0.5%, 1%, from a 5% to a 6%. Even after 20 fails, they'll be at 25%. That's still not a guarantee, right? I just feel like that just has to be implemented. It just has to be. But I feel like Nexon is just forgetting about this player base, large player base that doesn't, isn't at the 1% of the 1% players. And I think I want to be able to speak for them, right? There's a lot of free to play players and players that are in my comments asking for questions and help, and they are still struggling with necros and inherent and what to do on what routes. And I think that there's a lot of people out there that are in the same position that just don't want to speak up, and they should not be, pushed aside. I think that they should be prioritized because those are the ones that care about the game and play the game and love the game and tell their friends to play the game. So that's another factor, right? Adding in percent chance of RNG, a small percent goes a long way. People have been asking that for forever. I don't understand why they do it for exalts. They've done it for exalts, but nothing else. And then the last thing that I want to talk about, I think should be a big emphasis in 2024 for player base, just to make everyone happy, is open job advancement. Now, this is something that's been in PC for a long time, and I think it's time. I just think it's time to allow players to reroll, like to change classes, to experience other classes without being so with relative ease, right? It doesn't have to be changing every day, but I feel like there has to be some sort of implementation of this, allowing players to try out new classes, try out new things, enjoy the game, right? That's basically what it comes down to. If you could keep a player from quitting or leaving by allowing them to test out another class, experience something else, a class that is a big part, that makes Maple, I think they should be allowed to, right? Now, whether it's through, if they have growth packages, right now in growth packages with new classes, they're giving out, legendary items with Star Force on it. Whether they're, maybe at level 200, they can continue to raise that to 180 and to level 200 to allow people to, continue to level to 5th job and get rewarded. Maybe with like at level 200, they get a Rudibus weapon, an ancient weapon. I feel like that'd be a great, great way to incentivize players to keep going, to re-roll, to not feel so stuck in one class, um, because it's very hard to re-roll. And I think that is one of the challenges um, that I think um, can be improved, right? And some of the ideas that I thought I had was like I mentioned, growth packages, going all to level 200 with better gear, with better rewards, um, or even if there's packages for growth events, crystal events, burning events. If they had those packages out up to level 200, every new class coming in should be maybe burning up to level 180, 200, like Kana was, like they had for Explorer remasters. They had Explorers burning up to level 200. I think that should be a staple. I think that should be something that they definitely do with Cygnus Knights when that remaster comes out. Incentivize players to level those classes, the Cygnus Knights, and new classes moving forward. And give the option, like how Lady Blair has been coming out every few times a month, every maybe once a quarter. Maybe just have an open job advancement every quarter, allowing for people to, re-roll, and if they're same class, obviously that's probably what needs to be a requirement. Um, maybe they can combine it where they allow open job advancements for Cygnus Knights so that you can level up a Dawn Warrior and then maybe switch over to, I don't know, maybe not a Nightwalker, but just allow them to play different types of Cygnus Knights, right? But I think the emphasis should be not just on the mega whales and creating that endgame bossing or bringing in a new boss from Lotus to Damien to Nexus Lucid, but don't forget about the newer players that are trying to catch up, that are being introduced to the game for the first time, the free-to-play players, the players that are in the middle tier, that are, true Maple lovers that love the game for a lot of different reasons. Even those players that don't even care about bossing, that are here for fashion story. I mean, there should be ways to, get them excited as well. Find ways for them to feel like there's going to be new styles out or whatever, or things that are, fashion styles or hairstyles or mannequins, things like that. I think just trying to reach all player bases of all levels, not just the ones that spend all the money, because those players a lot of times burn out, are recycled, and just don't last very long. And so I'd love to hear your guys' ideas. I'm sure feedback is filled with great ideas. I personally don't go on feedback because it didn't really do good for me personally, but I'd love to hear what you guys think, what ideas you guys have to improve the game, to make your quality of life better, to make the game better, to keep you guys around, to bring in new players, retain players. I just think it's unfortunate that we just go through this cycle of people coming and going and leaving and coming back and just at the same times for the same reasons. And I do want to finish by giving the devs and Nexon credit, because I do think they did a lot of great things this year. I loved what they did with the solo Lotus, the solo Arc, just allowing for another option for players to do endgame content without being tied down to certain times, to certain time of days, days of weeks. Finding a 10-man team, solo players is a larger player base than a lot of people think. I like the event, the boss bounty event. I like the changes to just allowing rewards after so many clears. The commander clear rewards with the chaos shards. I like a lot of those things, and I just hope that they have more ideas up their sleeve, building off of it, and just providing more rewards and benefits and for people that play the game on a daily basis, and eliminate RNG. and luck, for not everything, but just for things that are sort of outdated. Like I mentioned, certain bosses, certain emblems, um, things like that. I think those deserve some sort of rework or rebalance to allow for those players that still need it to catch up quicker and progress faster to do more content. So that is being provided. So thank you for listening. Kind of a lot of rambling, but there's just been so many thoughts on my mind about this. I just had to let it out, and I'm sure a lot of people love to hear you guys' comments and thoughts and ways to improve the game, because I'll be around 2024. A lot of you guys will be as well. So we want this game to thrive and continue to bring in new players and retain players. So thank you again for listening, watching, wherever you are. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment below. Hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving, and I'll see you guys next time.